Samuel Wright stood at the viewport of his ship, the Defiant, watching as the colony of New Haven burned. From orbit, the destruction looked almost beautiful, flashes of orange and red against the dark blue of the planet's surface. But Samuel knew what those lights meant: death, suffering, the end of 3 million human lives. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the Hegemony flagship," his communications officer said. Samuel nodded, his jaw tight. "Put it through." The smug face of Executor Vaxatul appeared on screen. The alien's gray skin and multiple eye stalks always made Samuel's skin crawl, but today he felt only cold rage. "Captain Wright, I trust you are observing our necessary population control measures. The humans of New Haven exceeded their assigned reproduction quotas by 2.3%. The galactic hegemony cannot allow such blatant violations." Samuel's fingers dug into his palms. Those were families, children. "Resources must be managed, Captain. Surely you understand. Your species joined our collective willingly 3 centuries ago." "Joined?" Samuel almost laughed. "Is that what you call it when you threaten to destroy Earth unless we submitted?" The executor's eye stalks twitched with annoyance. "Ancient history, Captain. The present concern is maintaining order. We've left your primary colony worlds intact. Be grateful." The transmission ended before Samuel could respond. Just as well, his next words might have started a war Earth couldn't win. "Not yet." "Sir?" His first officer, Lisa Coleman, approached. "We've managed to rescue about 10,000 colonists. The hegemony forces are withdrawing." "Only 10,000? Samuel whispered. They targeted the population centers first, sir." Samuel turned away from the viewport, unable to watch anymore. "Set course for Earth. Maximum speed." During the 3-week journey back to Earth, Samuel reviewed the sensor data again and again. This wasn't just population control. The hegemony had targeted hospitals first, then schools. Their patterns of destruction showed deliberate extermination, not enforcement of quotas. When the Defiant finally reached Earth, Samuel found the government already in crisis mode. The Grand Council chamber was packed with representatives from the remaining human colonies. "This is the 3rd colony they've destroyed this year," Director Grace Wilson was saying as Samuel entered. "We can't absorb many more refugees." "What choice do we have?" asked another counselor. "The hegemony controls all FTL travel. They monitor our communications. They've placed their bases throughout our systems." Samuel stepped forward. "They're not just controlling population. They're preparing to wipe us out entirely." The room fell silent as he was recognized. "Captain Wright," Director Wilson nodded. "You've returned from New Haven." "I have evidence that contradicts the hegemony's claims." Samuel connected his datapad to the room's display system. They didn't target New Haven for exceeding quotas. The colony was actually under their own population limits. He showed the attack patterns, the targeting priorities, the intercepted communications. "This was a test run," Samuel continued. "They're measuring our response, seeing how quickly they can eliminate a human world. They're preparing for Earth." Murmurs spread through the chamber. "Even if you're right," said an older counselor, "what can we do? Their technology is centuries beyond ours." Samuel took a deep breath. "Maybe not all of it. I've heard rumors about Dr. Bennett's work at the lunar facility." Director Wilson's face hardened. "That project is classified, Captain. And it might be our only hope," Samuel insisted. "I've seen what they did to New Haven. I watched children burn. If the hegemony is planning what I think they are, we need every option on the table." The chamber erupted in argument. Some demanded immediate action, others called for caution. Samuel stood firm as the debate raged around him. Later, as he left the council chamber, Director Wilson caught up with him in the corridor. "You're right about New Haven," she said quietly. "And you're right about the hegemony's plans. We've intercepted communications about something they call processing Earth." Samuel felt cold. "Then we need to act." Wilson nodded. "Report to Lunar, Base Alpha tomorrow. You're being reassigned to Project Prometheus. If Dr. Bennett's work succeeds, humanity might finally have a way to fight back. Samuel looked out the window at the blue earth below. After 3 centuries of submission, humans were finally going to stand up to their oppressors. The galaxy would never be the same. Lunar Base Alpha hummed with activity beneath the dusty surface of Earth's moon. Dr. Olivia Bennett hunched over her workstation, her eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep. Equations and simulations filled multiple screens around her. Run it again, she told her computer system. Increase energy input by 12%. The simulation showed a star, just a small one. But as the test parameters engaged, the star's corona began to pulse in an unnatural rhythm. Energy built up, concentrated, and then shot outward in a directed wave. Olivia smiled as the simulation completed successfully. 6 years of work was finally showing results. The door to her lab slid open. Director Wilson entered, followed by a man in a captain's uniform. "Dr. Bennett," Wilson said. "This is Captain Samuel Wright from the Defiant. He's been reassigned to Project Prometheus." Olivia glanced up, annoyed at the interruption. "I work alone, Director, you know that." "Not anymore," Wilson replied. "The hegemony has escalated their attacks. New Haven was destroyed 3 weeks ago." Olivia's hands froze over her keyboard. "My sister lived on New Haven." Samuel stepped forward. "I'm sorry, Doctor. We managed to rescue some civilians, but most of the colony was lost." Olivia closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, the grief had hardened into determination. "Then we need to work faster," she said. "Captain, what do you know about stellar manipulation?" "Only what they taught us at the Academy. Stars are forbidden territory under hegemony law." "Exactly." Olivia gestured toward her screens. "They forbid the research because they fear it. For 300 years, humans have obeyed their rules, while they slowly squeeze us to death." She brought up a new display showing a device about the size of a small shuttle. "This is the Prometheus array. When placed near a star, it can influence the magnetic fields and energy output. Essentially, we can turn stars into weapons." Samuel studied the design with growing amazement. "How is this possible? The energy requirements alone would be..." "Enormous, yes," Olivia cut in. "But we've solved that problem by using the star's own energy. The device creates a feedback loop." Director Wilson cleared her throat. "Captain Wright will be handling security for the project. Commander Nathaniel Brooks will arrive tomorrow with the military resources you requested." "Good," Olivia said. "We need to move to full-scale testing immediately." 2 days later, Samuel stood beside Olivia on the bridge of a small research vessel. They had traveled to the Proxima system, an abandoned mining area where the hegemony rarely patrolled. "Are you sure this will work?" Samuel asked as technicians prepared the prototype device. "In theory? Yes. In practice?" Olivia shrugged. "We'll find out soon." Commander Brooks, a stern man with a military bearing, approached them. "Perimeter is secure. No hegemony ships detected in the area." "Deploy the device," Olivia ordered. They watched on screens as the small Prometheus unit moved toward Proxima's dim red star. When it reached the designated position, Olivia entered the activation code. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly, the star's surface began to ripple. Bands of energy formed around its equator, growing brighter. "It's working," Olivia whispered. A beam of concentrated solar energy suddenly shot from the star, narrowly focused in a direction away from populated systems. The energy reading was beyond anything Samuel had ever seen. "With a network of these devices," Olivia explained, "we could target hegemony military installations across the galaxy simultaneously. Or we could destroy entire planets," Samuel said quietly. Olivia met his gaze. "Yes, that's why we need people like you, Captain. Power requires restraint." As they watched the star return to normal, a signal blipped on their sensors. "Hegemony patrol ship," Brooks reported. "They're scanning the area." "Did they see us?" Samuel asked. "I don't think so, but they definitely detected the energy spike." Olivia smiled grimly. "Let them wonder. Soon enough, they'll understand exactly what it means." Samuel looked at the star through the viewport. Humanity finally had a weapon that could change everything, if they were brave enough to use it. The Global Council chamber in New Geneva was filled to capacity. Representatives from every surviving human colony gathered in the massive circular room. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Samuel stood at attention near the back wall, watching as Director Wilson addressed the assembly. "We face the greatest threat in our history," she said, her voice echoing through the chamber. "The evidence is clear. The hegemony is not merely controlling our population. They are systematically preparing to eliminate humanity entirely." Murmurs spread through the crowd. On the large screens around the room, images of New Haven's destruction played silently, a grim reminder of what they faced. "We have gathered. You here to decide our response," Wilson continued. "Dr. Bennett has developed a technology that could change the balance of power in the galaxy." Olivia stepped forward, looking tired but determined. She had not slept in 3 days preparing for this moment. "Project Prometheus allows us to harness the power of stars as weapons," she explained. "We can target hegemony military installations with precision, or..." She paused. "We can destroy entire worlds if necessary." The chamber erupted in voices. Some shouted in approval, others in horror. Governor Patrick Adams from Mars Colony stood up. "Are we truly considering this? Becoming the very monsters we fear? Better to be monsters than extinct," countered Representative Elena Diaz from Europa Station. "The hegemony has given us no choice." Samuel moved toward the center of the room. "If I may speak," he said. Wilson nodded, and the room quieted. "Watched New Haven burn," Samuel said simply. "I've seen the hegemony's cruelty firsthand, but I also understand the weight of what we're considering." He activated a small device, projecting intercepted hegemony communications. These messages, decoded last week, outline their plans to process Earth within the next 6 months. They describe it as final resource extraction from our home world. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Commander Brooks stepped forward. "Our military analysis suggests we cannot survive a direct confrontation using conventional means. The Prometheus array represents our only viable option." "But at what cost?" asked an elderly counselor. "If we use stars as weapons, what will we become?" Olivia replied. "The array can be calibrated. We don't need to destroy civilian worlds. We can target military installations, disrupting their ability to attack us without massive casualties." The debate raged for hours. Samuel watched faces change from fear to anger to resolution as the reality of their situation became clear. Finally, Director Wilson called for a vote. "Those in favor of authorizing deployment of the Prometheus array as a defensive measure?" Hands rose throughout the chamber, not all, but most. Those opposed? A smaller number of hands. Wilson nodded gravely. "The motion passes. Humanity will defend itself." She turned to Samuel and Olivia. "You have authorization to proceed with full deployment. God help us all." After the meeting, Samuel found Olivia staring out a window at Earth below. "Are we doing the right thing?" she asked quietly. "I don't know if there is a right thing anymore," Samuel replied. "But I know what happens if we do nothing." Governor Adams approached them, his face solemn. "A group of us cannot support this decision. We believe it crosses a moral line we shouldn't cross." "I understand," Samuel said. "We're taking our people to Sanctuary," Adams continued. "The hidden colony beyond hegemony space. I wanted you to know." Olivia nodded. "It's a wise precaution. If we fail, or if we succeed but lose ourselves in the process," Adams added. After he left, Commander Brooks joined them. "The evacuation ships are ready for those going to Sanctuary. The rest of us need to prepare the array." Samuel looked once more at the beautiful blue planet below. "How long until we're ready?" 2 weeks to position all the devices," Olivia said. "Then we deliver our warning." "And if they ignore it?" Brooks asked. Samuel's expression hardened. "Then we show them that humanity will not go quietly into the night. The stars themselves will burn with our fury." As they left the chamber, Samuel knew the decision had been made. For better or worse, humanity was about to change the galaxy forever. The stealth vessel Shadow moved silently through the outer reaches of the Rigel system. Inside its cramped engineering bay, Ryan Daniels cursed as he made final adjustments to the Prometheus device. "Hand me the phase calibrator," he said to his assistant. The young woman passed him the tool. "This is the 12th device we've placed. How many more?" "At least 20, Ryan replied, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Dr. Bennett wants a full network covering all major hegemony military installations." Outside, 3 crew members in spacesuits prepared to deploy the device near Rigel's second star, a small but powerful blue giant. Captain Samuel Wright's voice came through the comm system. "Daniels, what's your status? Long-range sensors show a hegemony patrol approaching the system." "Almost ready, Captain. 5 more minutes." Samuel checked the tactical display on the Shadow's bridge. The patrol was still far out, but hegemony ships could move quickly when they wanted to. 3 minutes, Daniels. That's all I can give you. In the engineering bay, Ryan and his team worked faster. The Prometheus device, shaped like a silver disc with extending arms, hummed as its systems came online. "Power signature stable," Ryan reported. "Ready for deployment." The airlocks opened and the team pushed the device out into space. They watched as its thrusters activated, carrying it toward the predetermined position near the star. "Devices away," Ryan reported, beginning automated calibration sequence. On the bridge, Samuel monitored the approaching hegemony ships. "They've changed course. They're heading directly for this star." Commander Brooks moved to the weapons station. "They might have detected our energy signature." "Everyone back on board," Samuel ordered. "Prepare for emergency jump." The deployment team scrambled back into the Shadow as the device continued its journey toward the star. "Jump coordinates set," the navigator reported. "Wait," Samuel said, watching the sensor readings. "The device isn't fully calibrated yet. If we leave now, it won't be properly aligned with the network." Olivia's voice came through from the science station. "We need 3 more minutes for complete calibration. Without this node, the entire western quadrant of the network will be compromised." Samuel studied the tactical display. The hegemony ships would be in visual range in 4 minutes. "Shut down all non-essential systems," he ordered. "Minimal power only. Let's hide in the star's radiation shadow." The shadow went dark, drifting silently behind a large asteroid. The crew held their breath as the minutes ticked by. "Calibration at 85%, Olivia whispered. 90%, 95%. On the tactical display, the hegemony patrol grew closer. "They're scanning the area," Brooks reported. "Standard search pattern." "Calibration complete," Olivia finally said. "The device is fully integrated into the network." "Now we wait," Samuel replied. The hegemony ships moved through the system, their powerful sensors sweeping through space. One ship passed so close to the Shadow that its hull was visible through the viewports. "They're hailing something," the communications officer reported. "Not us. They haven't seen us." "Put it on speaker," Samuel ordered. A harsh alien voice filled the bridge. "Patrol 7 to command. Energy anomaly detected but source not found. Possible solar flare activity. Continuing patrol." The crew remained frozen until the hegemony ships finally moved away, continuing their patrol route. "That was too close," Brooks said, releasing a long breath. Samuel nodded. "But the device is in place. That's what matters." As the Shadow prepared to jump away, Ryan joined them on the bridge. 12 down, 20 to go. At this rate, we'll be cutting it close to the deadline. "We keep going," Samuel said firmly. "Every device we place brings us closer to survival." The ship jumped into hyperspace, leaving the Prometheus device hidden near the star, silently waiting for its activation order. Across the galaxy, similar teams worked frantically to complete the network. Time was running out. Earth's fate would soon be decided, not by diplomacy or conventional warfare, but by humanity's desperate gamble to harness the power of the stars themselves. The Grand Council chamber on Earth had been transformed into a broadcasting center. Technicians worked frantically to ensure the transmission would reach every corner of the galaxy. This message would be the most important in human history. Ambassador. Karen Mitchell stood before the camera, her gray suit immaculate, her expression resolute. As Earth's chief diplomat to the hegemony for 15 years, she had endured countless humiliations with a smile. Today, that smile was gone. Final checks complete, the communications officer said. We're broadcasting on all hegemony frequencies, including their restricted military channels. Director Wilson nodded. Begin when ready, Ambassador. Karen took a deep breath and looked directly into the camera. Attention, Galactic Hegemony High Command. This is Ambassador Karen Mitchell speaking on behalf of Earth and all human colonies. For 3 centuries, humanity has endured your rule. We have watched our resources stripped away. We have suffered your population controls. We have buried millions of our dead at your hands. In the corner, Samuel and Olivia watched silently. The Prometheus network was complete. 32 devices, positioned around strategic stars throughout hegemony space. The final one had been placed just hours ago. Karen continued, her voice steady. We have discovered your plans to process Earth. We know this means the extermination of our species. This message serves as our response and our warning. She paused, letting the words sink in. Humanity demands immediate withdrawal of all hegemony forces from our systems. We demand recognition of our sovereignty and our right to exist. You have 48 standard hours to begin this withdrawal. Commander Brooks checked his tactical display. Already, hegemony communication channels were buzzing with activity. Should you choose to ignore this warning, Karen said, or respond with force, you will face consequences beyond your comprehension. Humanity has remained peaceful despite your provocations. Do not mistake our patience for weakness. The transmission ended. For a moment, the room was silent. And now we wait, Director Wilson said quietly. They didn't wait long. Within 20 minutes, the hegemony's response arrived. Supreme Executor Kralvex himself, his multiple eyes blinking in what might have been amusement. Ambassador Mitchell, your transmission has been received with the contempt it deserves. The hegemony does not negotiate with lesser species. Your threat is noted and dismissed. The alien's image flickered slightly as he continued. Your rebellion requires correction. A battle fleet has been dispatched to Earth. Be assured that your punishment will serve as an example to other species considering similar foolishness. The transmission cut off. Samuel moved to the tactical station where Brooks was already tracking the approaching fleet. 87 ships, Brooks reported, including 3 planetary destroyers. Estimated arrival, 36 hours. Director, Wilson turned to Olivia. Is the Prometheus array ready? Yes, Olivia replied. But I recommend we demonstrate its power before they reach Earth. One isolated target to prove we're serious. Wilson nodded slowly. Choose a location. Minimal casualties, but maximum impact. As they left the chamber, Karen joined Samuel in the corridor. Do you think they'll back down? She asked. Samuel shook his head. Not until we show them what we can do. The hegemony has never faced real resistance before. I've spent my career trying to find peaceful solutions, Karen said softly. Now I've just delivered an ultimatum that might start a war. They started this war centuries ago, Samuel replied. We're just finally fighting back. In the command center, Olivia selected a small hegemony outpost near an isolated star. The station housed primarily military personnel and automated systems. This will be our demonstration, she said, pointing to the display. The star is small enough that we can control the output precisely. She entered the activation code for that sector's Prometheus device. Warning message sent to the outpost. Brooks, confirmed. Giving them 1 hour to evacuate non-essential personnel. As the countdown began, Samuel watched the sensor readings showing the massive hegemony fleet still advancing toward Earth. Soon they would learn that the balance of power in the galaxy had changed forever. The stars themselves were about to speak for humanity. The command center was silent as Olivia activated the first Prometheus device. On the main screen, a small yellow star designated HD4293 appeared ordinary and harmless. A typical main sequence star supporting a minor hegemony outpost and refueling station. Target locked, Olivia announced. Initiating pulse sequence. Her fingers moved across the control panel, entering the final authorization codes. Samuel stood beside her, his hands clasped behind his back to hide their slight trembling. Did they evacuate? He asked. Commander Brooks checked the readings. Partial. Evacuation only. They don't believe our warning is serious. They will soon enough, Director Wilson said grimly. On the screen, the star's surface began to change. Waves of plasma rolled across it, forming strange patterns that no natural stellar process could create. Energy gathered in a tight band around the star's equator, glowing brighter by the second. Energy buildup at 40%, Olivia reported. 50%. 60. In the hegemony outpost, alarms were suddenly blaring. Their sensors had finally detected the unnatural activity in their sun. Frantic communications flooded the monitoring stations. They're trying to contact us, Karen said from the communications station. They're demanding to know what we're doing. No response, Wilson ordered. They had their chance. Energy buildup at 85%, Olivia continued. 90, 95, ready? For discharge, she looked at Samuel, then at Wilson. The director nodded once. Initiating stellar pulse, Olivia said quietly, pressing the final control. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, a massive beam of concentrated energy erupted from the star, perfectly aimed at the hegemony outpost. The blast lasted only 3 seconds, but its power was beyond anything humans had ever wielded before. When the light faded, the outpost was simply gone, vaporized. A third of the hegemony fleet that had been stationed nearby had also disappeared. The command center remained silent as they absorbed what they had just done. Target neutralized, Brooks finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. On the tactical display, the remaining hegemony ships were scattering in confusion. Some had been damaged by the pulse, others were simply fleeing. They're broadcasting distress calls, Karen reported. Their commanders are demanding explanations. Director Wilson moved to the communication station. Send this message to the main hegemony fleet still approaching Earth. This was a demonstration only. One small star under our control. We have 31 more, positioned throughout your territory. Withdraw or face the consequences. The message was sent. For several tense minutes, there was no response from the advancing fleet. They've stopped, Brooks suddenly announced. The fleet has halted its approach. A cheer started to rise from the staff, but Samuel raised his hand. Wait, he said. They're still in attack formation. Sure enough, after a brief pause, the hegemony ships resumed their course toward Earth, moving even faster than before. They're not backing down, Brooks said. Wilson's face hardened. They think we won't do it again. They think we can't target their main fleet. Can we? Samuel asked Olivia. She nodded slowly. We have a Prometheus device near Sirius. It's larger than the star we just used. The pulse would be much more powerful. And how many hegemony civilian worlds would be affected? Samuel pressed. None directly, Olivia replied. But the electromagnetic pulse would disable systems across several sectors. Wilson considered this information. The hegemony has left us no choice. They saw what we can do and they're still coming, to destroy Earth. She turned to Olivia. Prepare the Sirius device. Target their main fleet. As Olivia began the preparations, Samuel moved to a viewport. Somewhere out there, a massive alien fleet was coming to end humanity, and humanity's only hope was to unleash a power that had never been used in the history of the galaxy. They had their chance for peace, he whispered to himself. Now they'll see what happens when humanity has nothing left to lose. On the main screen, Sirius began to pulse with unnatural light as the Prometheus device awakened its terrible power. The Situation Room buzzed with tense activity as Olivia prepared the entire Prometheus network for coordinated activation. Around her, technicians monitored energy readings from 32 stars across hegemony space. The Sirius device is ready, Olivia announced, and I've configured the remaining devices to activate in sequence. Samuel watched the main tactical display where the hegemony fleet continued its advance toward Earth. Despite seeing the destruction of their outpost, they remained determined. They still think we're bluffing about the full network, Brooks said, studying the enemy movements. Director Wilson's face was grim as she gave the order nobody had ever wanted to give. Activate the Sirius device. Target their main fleet. Olivia's fingers moved across the control panel. On the screen, Sirius, a bright, powerful star, began to shimmer with unnatural energy patterns. Unlike the previous smaller star, Sirius gathered power much faster, its massive energy reserves feeding the Prometheus device. Energy buildup at 70% already, Olivia reported. This will be significantly more powerful than our demonstration. Across the galaxy, hegemony sensors detected the strange activity in Sirius. Urgent messages flew between ships as commanders realized what was happening. They're increasing speed, Brooks noted. They're trying to reach Earth before we can strike. Too late, Olivia said. Energy buildup complete. Firing now. Sirius unleashed its fury. A massive pulse of directed energy swept through space, perfectly aimed at the hegemony fleet. When it hit, the destructive force was beyond anything they had anticipated. Ships disintegrated instantly. Those on the edges of the blast had their systems completely disabled, left drifting helplessly. Of the 87 ships that had been approaching Earth, over 60 were instantly destroyed or disabled. Direct hit, Brooks confirmed, his voice quiet with awe. Their fleet is decimated. They're transmitting, Karen said from the communications station. Audio only. The harsh voice of Supreme Executor Kralvex filled the room, no longer confident but filled with rage. This action constitutes war against the entire hegemony. All human worlds will be purged for this offense. Director Wilson looked at Olivia. Proceed with the full deployment. Olivia nodded and activated the master sequence. Across hegemony space, 30 different stars began to pulse in unison. I've targeted their military installations only, Olivia explained. The energy pulses are precisely calculated to avoid civilian population centers. On screens around the room, they watched as stars throughout hegemony territory erupted with controlled bursts of energy. Defense stations, shipyards, weapons platforms, all were struck with devastating precision. We're broadcasting on all frequencies, Karen announced, showing evidence of the hegemony's planned genocide against Earth and other species. Indeed, alongside the star strikes, human communication ships were transmitting proof of hegemony atrocities, the destruction of New Haven, the intercepted plans for Earth, centuries of oppression documented in meticulous detail. We're receiving transmissions, Karen said, sounding surprised. Not from the hegemony, from other species, the Nox Collective, the Tyrellian Alliance. They're all watching. The hours that followed were chaotic. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Hegemony forces were in disarray, their military infrastructure crippled by the coordinated attack. Several subject species had already risen up against their hegemony overseers. The hegemony Central Command is intact, Brooks reported. They built their headquarters inside a rogue planet, not near any star. But their military power is broken, Wilson observed. They can no longer enforce their will across the galaxy. Samuel watched the tactical displays showing hegemony forces retreating from human space. We did it. At what cost? Olivia whispered, looking at the data showing the extent of the destruction they had caused. Karen approached them with a communication pad. We're receiving a transmission from the Hegemony Council. Not just the military this time, their civilian leadership. She activated the message. A different alien appeared on screen, older and flanked by several species Samuel had never seen before. This is High Chancellor Vex Mora of the Galactic Hegemony, the alien said. We request immediate cessation of hostilities and open diplomatic channels. The Supreme Executor has been removed from command. We wish to discuss terms. Around the room, humans looked at each other in stunned silence. After 3 centuries of subjugation, everything had changed in a single day. The stars had spoken for humanity, and the galaxy had listened. The new Galactic Council met in the grand chamber that had once been reserved exclusively for hegemony. Leadership. Representatives from 12 species sat at a circular table, all equal, none elevated above the others. Among them sat Karen Mitchell, now serving as humanity's chief ambassador. 3 months had passed since the day the stars burned with humanity's fury. The galaxy had transformed in ways no one could have predicted. The trade agreements between the Nox Collective and the former hegemony worlds are approved, announced the moderator, a tall being from a species once kept as servants to the hegemony elite. Karen made notes on her tablet as the council moved through its agenda. The transition had not been easy, but it had been remarkably peaceful. Once the hegemony's military power collapsed, their political control had quickly followed. After the meeting, she found Samuel waiting in the antechamber. He wore a formal Earth defense uniform, newly designed without the hegemony symbols that had once been required. "How was the session?" he asked. "Productive," Karen replied. "Though I still get uncomfortable looks from some species. They fear us now." Samuel nodded. "Can you blame them? We weaponize stars." They walked together through the massive space station that now served as neutral territory for all species. Through the viewports, they could see ships from dozens of worlds coming and going freely. No hegemony checkpoints, no restricted zones. "Where's Dr. Bennett?" Karen asked. "Still at the containment facility. The Multilateral Oversight Committee meets there today." The Prometheus technology had become the most carefully guarded secret in the galaxy. After the hegemony's surrender, all the devices had been deactivated and placed under the joint control of multiple species, including humans. No single government would ever have sole access to such power again. "The refugees from Sanctuary are returning," Samuel said as they entered a transport shuttle. "Governor Adams sent a message saying they're pleased with the new arrangements but still concerned about the future." Karen smiled slightly. "Their moral stand meant something. It reminded us what we were fighting for." The shuttle took them to a memorial that had been erected on the station. A simple stone wall listed the names of colonies destroyed by the hegemony, with New Haven prominently displayed. Flowers from a dozen worlds had been placed below the names. Olivia Bennett stood there alone, staring at the wall. She looked thinner than before, her face more lined. "Olivia," Samuel called softly. She turned, managing a small smile. "The committee approved the final containment protocols. All Prometheus devices are now permanently disabled." "Is that why? You look troubled?" Karen asked. Olivia shook her head. "I was thinking about balance. We created a weapon powerful enough to free the galaxy from tyranny, but that same power could have destroyed everything. That's why the Oversight Committee exists," Samuel reminded her. "Yes, but knowledge can't be contained forever," Olivia replied. "Someday someone will rediscover what we found. I hope they'll be wise enough to understand the responsibility." They stood together in silence for a moment, watching as beings from various species came to pay respects at the memorial. "Commander, Brooks asked me to give you this," Karen said, handing Samuel a data drive. "The final statistics from the conflict. Surprisingly low casualties considering the scale." Samuel pocketed the drive without looking at it. He'd read it later, adding more names to those he carried in his memory. "What happens now?" Olivia asked. "Now we rebuild," Karen replied. "The Council has approved expansion of human colonies into systems previously restricted by the hegemony. We're establishing cultural exchange programs with species we never knew existed." "And the Prometheus project?" Samuel asked. "Classified and contained," Olivia said firmly. "My research has been redirected toward peaceful applications of stellar energy. There's so much we can learn now that we're free to explore." As they left the memorial, they passed a group of children from various species playing together, something that would have been forbidden under hegemony rule. Samuel stopped to watch them, a smile crossing his face. "That's what we fought for," he said quietly. "Not just survival, but the right to build something better." Above them, visible through the station's transparent dome, stars shone peacefully in the darkness. The same stars that had burned with humanity's fury now illuminated a new path forward. not as weapons, but as beacons lighting the way to a more just galaxy. Humanity had issued its final warning, and against all odds, the galaxy had listened.